Brian Pillman. Somebody's asked that on the chat room.
Great guy.
I believe he's due out of rehab in terms of mental rehab any day now.
Well, let me tell you, the funny thing is that and I probably shouldn't be giving Brian away, but Brian Pillman, when he wants to be, is one of the classiest guys I've ever met. And he's a tremendous talent. He's a guy that has a loving, burning desire to be great at this sport. And I'm sure that someday, even though he's enjoyed huge success, he'll really enjoy that top level that he wants to be at someday.
Here's a great question. People have wanted to know about this for years, and Ric Flair can finally respond to it. In ECW, I know you know about this, Shane Douglas made it a point to wage a verbal one-way war with you because you certainly never respond. But what do you think of Shane Douglas? Obviously trying to get over on your name, and there's probably nothing wrong with that, but he said some pretty harsh things.
Well, you know, it's funny. There's a guy that I will give you a comment that probably would be a little degrading to. I think he's a wannabe. I want to be good at this. I want to be, but just never can be. And I don't think he enjoyed any success up in New York. Didn't enjoy any here, and he'll always find someone to blame that on. And that's a misfortune and an unfortunate way to go through life, looking for someone to blame your lack of success on.
Well, having had nothing but success my entire career, I've never had a problem, Gene.
You know, you bring up the age factor, 48 years old. When a Kevin Nash or a Scott Hall gets out on a certain edition of WCW, Monday Nitro on TNT, and says you and Piper and others are over the hill, that yes, indeed, you may have paved the road, but you left it full of potholes. What does that kind of copy, that kind of conversation, how does it affect you?
It doesn't, because I know it could not be the truth. I haven't been wrestling for 25 years, and I can guarantee anybody that ever paid anywhere between $10 or $100 to see me never left with any kind of a pothole. They watched me perform that night.
We have Dave from Florida on the line. Dave, you're talking to Gene Mark and the Nature Boy.
Yeah, hey, Ric Flair, how are you? Good, man. How are you, Dave? Okay.
What part of Florida, by the way, Dave?
I think you're about your little hot spot, Sarasota.
Well, very good. All right. Thank you.
I've been a wrestling fan since I watched in the 50s with my grandparents and listened to my grandmother cursing at all the bad guys. And for years, I've always wondered about this little lump that you have on your back. And I was wondering if that was a wrestling-related
muscle, yeah. Wrestling-related.
Wrestling related. Also, you were in a very tragic airplane crash at one time.
Yeah.
And for the record, can you just go over that particular incident for us? I know that a lot of people were hurt in that, including the great Johnny Valentine.
Actually, Johnny Valentine was paralyzed in that accident. We were leaving Charlotte with the great John Valentine, myself, Tim Woods, who at that time was wrestling as Mr. Wrestling number 2, Bob Brothers, David Crockett, and the pilot who unfortunately died, Michael Farkas. And at the altitude of 4,000 feet, 100 miles out of Wilmington, or estimated about 80 miles out of Wilmington, we ran out of gas. And as I'm sure neither of you will ever find out, and hopefully you'll never find out, when a plane runs out of gas, the propellers do not go put.
They stop.
They pin, and you go straight down. And we actually hit the ground after going through a mass of trees. We stopped in a railroad embankment at 220 miles an hour. So we were probably traveling somewhere over 300 miles an hour.
You were lucky to walk away from it, and even though you did not walk away, you're lucky to come out of it alive.
Very lucky, very lucky.
Also, on the subject of the fact that we are at the United Center here in Chicago, one of your favorite venues, I'm certain, in the entire world, Ric Flair, all the time you spent in North Carolina, I'm very curious about your relationship with the great Michael Jordan.
Well, you know, I've known Michael since he was probably about 19 years old. He's from Wilmington, North Carolina, and I met Michael in one North Carolina game, and then I met him years later when he first came to the Bulls, and I've watched him, as every great fan out there has, rise to be the greatest sports attraction, sports figure, sports athlete of all time. And probably second, if even second, only recognition worldwide to the great Muhammad Ali. He's a tremendous athlete, and as you all know, I mean, talking about Eugene and you, Mark, the guy has taken basketball to a new level, not only with his great athletic ability, but with his marketing concept as well.
Everybody said that David Stern was a genius for what he did in the NBA. Yeah. Let's face it, if I had Michael Jordan, I was the president of the NBA, I'd be a genius too.
Actually, my friends that worked with a genius, they drafted Michael and then they sold the team.
Before, somebody asked if you had a protege, a young wrestler you liked, and then this name's been brought up on the scroll up here. One guy you love to hate, I believe, is Six. You enjoy working with him in a lot of ways, don't you?
Yeah, he's just the kind of guy that he's tailor-made for me. He's the kind of guy that creates a tremendous amount of excitement around him, adversity, and he's a great athlete. And it's always a challenge for me to wrestle a guy of his style. He reminds me a lot of a Brian Pillman type or Shawn Michaels. I mean, he's not limited in anything that he can do. He's not going to ever be 250 pounds, but then again, either have I been. And I always like to see a guy that has this kind of ability go a long ways.
You know, associated with the smaller in stature, not diminutive to say the least, because he's got such a big heart. Your take on one Kevin Sullivan?
A genius. That's all I can say. Never have regarded Kevin Sullivan as a great wrestler, and I don't think anybody will ever accuse him of being a great wrestler, but he is a good wrestler. In his youth, he had one of the best bodies in our sport, and if he wanted to lose 20 pounds, could have again. But Kevin Sullivan is a genius, and a phenomenally intelligent guy, and a guy that, you know, I've been close to for a number of years, and I have a lot of respect for him.
By the way, he's going to be back full-time here in very short order. We welcome Kevin Sullivan back.
Okay, we have a call here. It's going to be Doug. Doug, you're on with Gene, Mark, and Ric Flair.
Doug. Hello, Doug.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Doug.
All yours.
Hey, Flair.
Hey, man.
What do you got to say, Doug? You got a question for the Nature Boy?
Yeah. Why did you leave Piper in the ring last night?
Well, I explained that earlier, Doug. I thought that when I walked out the door, Piper was putting Scott Hall to sleep, and I thought the match was over. And I basically thought he had everything under control.
He explained it earlier in this program, and I think he's done so again without it getting into a lot of detail. And the way I read it, there must have been a misunderstanding there.
Yeah, for sure. I would never have left him in a perilous position.
One question that was scrolled before. Doug, thanks for the call. One question that was scrolled before. Rick, I've known you for a number of years, as has Gene, and one thing that we both know about you is you prefer to be, quote-unquote, the bad guy. Maybe you could touch on why that is, and could you be headed toward that way again, perhaps?
Well, that's just, you know, that's a personal preference in wrestling style. I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to go off the top rope like Rey Mysterio from at this point in time. No, I've always preferred to wrestle a little bit rougher style, and I don't know if that's being the bad guy or not, but because I really have a hard time talking about that on the inside stuff that you guys would like me to, but I perform better on the other side of the track.
Could you get people to boo you now at this point? I mean, I think you'd have to kidnap the Leesburg baby at this point to get booed.
Oh, I can get people to boo me.
Ric Flair.
No problem.
No problem. They love booing the dirtiest player in the game.
Let's take a look at the situation as it is today with World Championship Wrestling. It's something that I experienced around 10, 11, 12 years ago when I was up in New York with the World Wrestling Federation. But I've got to say, not quite like we see it here today in World Championship Wrestling. Is it a thrill for you? I'm sure it is. But what a thrill to be part of this excitement that has now taken the country and literally the world by storm.